All right. I'm
Hi,
gonna
hi.
mute most of you guys here. Good to see a bunch of familiar faces. All right. And if you don't mind just muting yourselves for now, and we're just gonna get started here. Leos, great to see some familiar faces here. And we're just gonna pop open the chat. So awesome. All right. Well, welcome to today's Pebbler's Mastermind. It is the June version, June edition. I don't know. Anyways, today we've got a very special guest. We've got Sean O'Toole over from PropertyRadar. Now, PropertyRadar was actually a list pulling service I used when I first got it started with land, I don't know, a few years back. And they recently reached out and they've gone nationwide. At a point, they were not nationwide, I believe, not across the country, but now they are. How do I highlight people here? Okay, I'm gonna spotlight Sean here. And anyways, it was great to get in touch with their team. It looks like you guys have done a lot. I'm interested to learn a little bit more. And last time I sort of probed the audience to see if anybody was interested. We definitely got some interest in the Facebook group. Not everybody can attend live, obviously. So Sean, welcome to the Mastermind.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that are new, and for yourself, Sean, as well, we'll sort of get Sean to talk a little bit about PropertyRadar. I'll try to throw in some questions. If you guys want to add some questions to the chat there, you definitely can do so. If you guys wanted to unmute yourself
You muted yourself.
I think you muted yourself, Jesse.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
All right.
Demo.
Anyways, I was just saying, if you wanted to unmute yourself and ask any questions, go ahead. You can leave in the chat as well. And then, so we're going to talk a little bit about PropertyRadar. We're also going to share a little bit with our new template editor. We're going to be able to demo a little bit because last week we had our update roundup. We weren't able to get Kevin on. His internet was pretty funky. I think he was kind of going through a storm, right, Kevin?
Yeah, my parents' house they got the satellite internet, and as soon as it starts storming, it's like gone.
And by the way, Kevin's actually not in Korea right now. He's visiting his family out in Wisconsin, right?
Yep.
Awesome. So let's jump right in, and then we'll open the floor up for Q&A, whether it's for Sean or for us or for Pebble, PropertyRadar. It doesn't matter. We'll open that floor up. So, Sean, welcome again. Can you sort of tell us a little bit about what, first of all, what is PropertyRadar?
Yeah, so it's a property data and owner information platform. And we're primarily used by folks acquiring real estate, at least in the investor space. We're also used by realtors and home services companies and other folks. But basically anybody who's trying to reach home or property owners, that's our primary use case, either searching for a list of those folks or looking up them individually.
And I'm gonna let somebody in here. And how long have you guys been around, out of curiosity?
Yeah, so we originally launched as Foreclosure Radar in 2007. I had been in tech through the dot-com bust in 2000. And after the dot-com bust, I started investing in real estate and bought and flipped 160 properties. I think only one piece of land. So I'm not, haven't done a ton of land. Yeah. And saw the foreclosure crisis coming and launched a service called Foreclosure Radar. And we ended up basically being the picks and shovels of the foreclosure crisis. I even landed on 60 Minutes. So that's how it all started. And then as the foreclosure crisis wound down, we expanded to cover all properties, but we were only a West Coast company.
Yep.
And so we're in Arizona, Nevada, Washington, Oregon. And then we expanded to cover the nation just this last November.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. What was, out of curiosity, was there a reason why you guys were only on the West Coast, and now that you guys are sort of nationwide?
I'll tell you, it's pretty simple. Property data, we don't just bring in property data. So there's a lot of property data tools out there, but we also bring in owner data, demographics, phones, emails, a lot of other data sets. So we've got a little richer data than most services. Some services will go off and do match append through a third party for phone and email, skip tracing. We have that all built in. So the cost of that data is super high. And basically by starting in California, right? California is 5%. There's only 50 counties in California. As you move east, you get more and more counties. Like there's 250 something in Texas, right? As you move farther east, the counties get smaller. California only has 50 counties, yet it's about 30% of the revenue for a company like ours, right? Like people just spend more here. So for 5% of the cost, for 30% of the revenue, it allowed us to grow and be competitive and get to the point where we could buy all that data for the nation.
Awesome.
So the data that you guys pull compared to other list providers, a lot of people use list providers like DataTree. How do you guys sort of differ from services like that? And how does your data sort of, what else do you guys sort of do differently from them?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the core stock and trade for everybody is county assessor, right? Especially in this business, that's going to be one of your most important. That's going to tell you who the owner is and stuff. County recorder. County recorder varies a little bit. Nobody really abstracts information on all the recorded documents. Something a lot of people don't understand. County recorder is where your deeds, your loans, your judgments, all that stuff gets recorded, assignments, foreclosures in non-judicial states. So all of that gets recorded at the county recorder, but it gets recorded as a document. And the county itself has no data on, they have 5 pieces of data: the date, the document number, document type, and the 2 parties involved. They don't have what's the interest rate, who's, on a foreclosure, what date is it going to sale? What was the sale price? They typically don't have any of that. So you have to go to those documents and pull all that information out. And, we have over 1 billion documents in our system. So that's a big task. Right. No company does that for the entire nation. There are companies that sell that data for the entire nation, but, like the Warren Group up in the Northeast, right, is they're kind of the ones that are the best in that area. And you get different places, different companies in different areas. The big boys are DataTree. You mentioned First American that's a First American product. And then CoreLogic, ListSource is another really popular one. Black Knight, Agent Pro 247, right? Those companies are kind of the biggest companies by revenue and by market cap in the business, but none of them have a complete, none of them are the ultimate source of that data. So there's a lot of trading that goes along.
Gotcha.
The thing we focused on from the very beginning to differentiate is public records data are messy, right? So we're constantly using data science to find ways to clean up and differentiate the data from other folks, right? And there's certain things we do great, and there's certain things where there's no difference, right? And so that's a big part of it. The other thing that really differentiates us, though, is that unlike all these property folks, we're pulling in demographics data, right? We're pulling in phones, we're pulling in emails. Right. We're looking at relationships between properties. What other properties does this owner own? And then I think probably the biggest difference is we just had a very different pricing model, right? A lot of these folks charge you per record just to look at the data. Or, you go to a ListSource, ListSource is the only one close to us in terms of number of criteria. We have over 200 criteria. They're the only one we compete with at all in terms of list building. But before you can see a single record on that list, you have to buy it. With us, you put in that same criteria, and then you can go look at all the results. And if you don't need to export them, you don't need to pay another cent, right? It's just a flat monthly fee. So you can save hundreds or thousands of dollars. So it's just a very different business model. We were really focused more on small companies. Those big guys are focused more on selling data to the banks and selling it for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So very different business model.
Are you saying per record, you guys are essentially a lot cheaper or a lot more competitive?
To look at the data in our app and sit there and make phone calls and the rest, it's just $99 a month.
Right.
And
Awesome.
you can do that for 100,000 records.
Yep.
Right. Whereas, even pulling a couple thousand records where you don't even get a phone number, from some of these other services is hundreds of dollars. So we do include 10,000 records that you can export within that price. If you want to export more, there is a fee. So we can't have people downloading the entire nation for free, right? Like,
Sure.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things I think you mentioned here is you also append the phone numbers and the emails as well. Is that correct? And is it social profiles as well?
Yeah, we do have a tool for looking up the social profiles, which works really well. Now, I will say, it's going to work not as well. You guys are focused on land, right? When it's people's primary residences and they've lived there for a while, we're going to have their phone number a pretty high percentage of the time, like 80–90% of the time. For something like land, and we could do an example, but it might be more like 10 or 15%. But if you got a big enough pool, and here's the thing is, like, with every other tool on the market, let's say you identify 20,000 properties that are potential. You can add a criteria that says has phone number, and maybe we only have 10%, right? Maybe it's only 1,000 or something, right? But with every other tool on the market, you'd have to export and buy 20,000 records. Then you'd have to send it off to a service to do the match append, right? And then you'd have to buy all those records, right? Whereas, we just add that as a criteria, and you can see, oh, here's the ones with phone numbers. I'm just going to focus on those.
Yeah.
So it makes it really simple, and you don't pay to find out which ones have a phone number or not.
I just think this is really cool because Kevin, like in the case for Pebble, like if we're able to bring in the emails or phone numbers, we can pretty much run a zap right to, like, let's just say we're doing neighbor letters, for example. And we have all those neighbors, and you can easily hit a send button to all of those neighbors that have emails and get at those neighbors through email or even phone as well. So which I think is really cool. That you guys
huge.
have that.
That's another actually big differentiator. We're the only company that I know of in the public records business that has a Zapier integration. So you guys have Zapier, right? So you can actually integrate it. You could highlight properties in our system and hit export to Zapier and send it straight into your system.
Awesome.
With one click.
Yeah.
No export, import, any of that.
Right.
Awesome.
Sorry, you go ahead, Kevin.
I was just going to say, so this is maybe for my own curiosity. So all of these companies, these data companies, First Tree, CoreLogic, all these guys, are they actually in contact with the counties and pulling records directly from them? Or is there some like underlying universal data system that there is?
So there's no one company that works with every county directly.
Okay.
So what happens is, it all started off with title plans, right? So if you just roll back, I remember when I first started off in 2000 and buying foreclosures, I was like, I really want access to a title plan. And I tried to buy into the title plan for San Joaquin County, Stockton, California. And they said, sure, you can buy in, and we'd love to have you, because the way it works is the local title companies share the cost of running the title plan. And so they said, you can buy in, and it's $10,000 a month. And I went, shoot, I'm in, I'll do that, right? Like, that makes sense to me. I'll get access to everything, right? And they said, oh, but that's only for records going forward. If you want the historical records, you have to reimburse us for every month as far back as you want to go. So that was basically like $100,000 a year, right? For every year of history that I wanted. And I was like, okay, I'm out. I'm not going to do it, right? Like, and that was really what started, that was in 2001. And that's really what started this company, as I started looking for other ways to get access to that same that same data more cost effectively. Now, what's happened since then is that First American, CoreLogic, Black Knight have largely said, and they would be the ones that would run those title plans. They would provide the software to those title plans.
Okay.
Software like Property Insight and Data Trace, which is related to Data Tree, which you mentioned. And so they had this title plan software, and they said, you know what, we want to own this data. So they started buying out title plans, and so, you know, county to county, you'd have a Fidelity County, you'd have a First American County, right? And then like,
I've seen that myself. Yeah, you see it in the like GIS systems, which ones are which.
yeah, and then it'd be like, well, wait a second, right? We're not going to let Fidelity have LA, so we're going to have to be in LA too, right? And so over the last 20 years, you've kind of had this mad scramble. No company abstracts every county themselves.
Yeah. Now, follow-up question.
Yeah.
Are there any talks of having some sort of universal database for all this stuff that's like totally public and not privately owned?
You know, so all the data is totally public, right? But it's recorded as a document image.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, you can go down to your county recorder's office, sit your butt in the chair, and in some counties, you can go onto their website, right, and look at that document image on the website. And then you can write all the information down, right? So it is public record, right?
Yeah.
What companies like us are doing is combining it all in one place and making it easier to access.
Right.
And, you know, when I think about 10 grand a month for one county, and I think about now 20 years later, we're $99 for the nation. Like, I have a really hard time with that it should be free thing.
No, I totally agree. I'm just wondering for the counties, like, I mean, I've pulled lists directly from counties, and they're just in like the most asinine format sometimes. So and I just wonder, like, would it be beneficial for them to have like, okay, everything gets stored in some universal system that all other counties are using?
I actually think, so if you think about like what Bloomberg did for stocks and bonds and real estate, making that all available on a Bloomberg terminal within milliseconds of that trade's happening, right? It's just and I think about like the Fed, right? So the Fed, Bernanke in mid 2007 said, hey, it's a subprime crisis. It's largely contained. We're not concerned about spread to the larger market, right? Boy, he couldn't have been more wrong. And part of that's because, you know, this whole system, and this can be true for us in a smaller county, it may take us 45 days to get the data into our system. In some place like LA, Los Angeles, right, we may have it in a couple days, right? So it's a lot better, but it varies a lot county to county. And that's probably for everybody listening, the most important thing to know on public records is like, you know, everybody's like, oh, just do this. Like, well, that might work in their county. It might not in yours. And you may have to experiment a little to figure out what works in your county to really make use of public records.
Totally.
But there is the electronic recording group that's working on getting rid of these paper documents and getting all that information in standardized formats to get recorded. We'll see. That would be awesome to see. You know, I don't see it ever going back and picking up all the historical stuff. You know, at some point we may see that as a go forward. Make me president for a day. This is one of my highest priorities. Like, there's nothing more important to the economy than real estate, right? It's larger than the stock market. It's larger than the bond market. And we treat it like we wait around for the industry to self-report 45 days after the fact. I mean, and the primary source of data is still the title companies, right? Why do we need title insurance? The only reason we need title insurance is because the data is no good. If the data was perfect and we knew exactly who owned what property and what the transactions were on the property, there'd be no need for title insurance. So it's kind of the fox guarding the hen house too.
Does anybody have any questions here? I think we got one from Samuel Godin here. Latitude and longitude are currently unavailable fields to export for a list. Is there an estimated time when these fields will become exportable?
Yeah, that just hit my radar right after we locked in the export fields that we just revised for our next release, which is coming out next week. I don't know if it was Samuel or somebody else, Jesse, maybe from your crew, that got that over to Kim and got that to me.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
But it's just a little too late for this release. It is on my radar though now.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Hopefully 4.4, which is our next release after this one. So maybe 60 days, 90 days.
Okay.
Cool.
Any other questions? I'm wondering if we've got a couple minutes here, and what we'll do is probably, maybe we'll wrap up on the property radar side of the things, and then we'll continue. We'll take off. I mean, we'll take over with the Pebble side, so we don't keep you around, Sean. But do you have property radar sort of pulled up on your screen, and you can sort of show us a couple screens there and how you pull data?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to do that?
Yeah, if you can share your screen.
4 or 5 minutes on that?
Yeah. Just
Sure.
yeah, I'd love to see how you guys kind of pull data, and I think versus when I used to use it, I think now there's a mapping tool that you can actually circle and whatnot. Correct?
Yeah, for sure. So let me
If I
just jump over. I'm actually going to give you a preview of our release that's coming out next week. There's just some small changes, but so for those of you who are users already, you get a free preview too.
Out of curiosity, who here, if in the chat, can you just say, if you're using Property Radar? I'm interested to see. I guess Samuel is using Property Radar, but yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
All right, so I'm just going to start with pick a state, right? Like Arizona, and this is kind of the way, because public records, it's kind of experimentation. So I just start off with a high criteria. I'm going to change this view to this for a second, right? And we've highlighted Arizona. There's 3.3 million properties. Obviously, that's too many. We're interested in land. So I'm going to come in here, property type, and I'm going to come down to land and hit add criteria. And oops, I scrolled there. What did I do? There we go. 666,000 properties, right? Let me come back here. I don't know necessarily what size market you guys work in, but I know a lot of the land folks that I've worked with in the past focus on maybe less expensive properties. So I might come in here and look for assessed value below $10,000, right? I'm just going to keep, still 613,000, right? Like way too many. So let's come back and maybe we'll go to Pinal County, right? So kind of the South Phoenix area. And okay, now we're down to 56,000, still an awful lot. Let's go, if they've purchased it recently, I would think it's probably not as good an option. So I'm going to go to most recent change of ownership, which is the most recent purchase. And I'm going to come in here and add, let's say before, let's say they bought it before the crisis. Let's say January 1st, 2009. Add criteria. Still, 36,000, still just a ton, right? And so this is what I'll do is I'll just kind of try to work things down. Let's see, there's a city here, Casa Grande. Let's focus in on that. I think that's only like 45 minutes south of the Phoenix airport. So still pretty close by. We've got 10,000 properties here. We can come back into and be a little bit more particular about our land. So I'm going to come in here to property type, open this up. There's a lot of different property land types here. Let's just do residential acreage, residential lot, recreational acreage, something like that, right? Okay, still 7,000, right? Now we're showing results on the map. We've had results down here the whole time. You can come in here and sort by different things. So we can sort by owner name. This can be interesting because you'll find folks that own a whole bunch of, look at this 175 Burris, right? Like they own a lot of these 2K holdings. Good way to look for competitors if you start looking in a market and you can start seeing guys that are buying a lot. Especially, I added purchase date here before 2009, but if we've done purchase date in the last year, you could see who's buying in that area, see how much they're paying. You can change these columns. So I'll add in, well, this won't really work in this case, but I can come in here and add purchase price. For those of you who are purchase type, purchase amount right there. For those of you who are Foreclosure Radar users, you'll notice there's a lot of new columns in here with our next release, including all the foreclosure data. I changed this view too. Normally it has beds and baths, but I was looking at lots, so I changed this to show like lot square footage instead. And so you can kind of adjust all these things. Now see the lot square footage, 243 feet, that's a pretty big range. So let's come back, property, lot size acres, and let's just say 0.5 to 2. Add criteria. Okay, there's 1600. That starts to be interesting. Now this is where we really differentiate, right? So let's come in here and say has a phone. So 1600 total. This is going to knock it way down, 126. So less than 10% have phone, but that's still kind of interesting. And then, you know, maybe I want to target folks who are maybe giving up on their, you know, getting a little old, giving up on their dream to build something down here. Add criteria. Now I've got people over 65, et cetera.
That's huge. Being
Now
able to target by age is huge.
We can zoom in. We'll change our view to a map view, and it's kind of, you know, interesting. Like there's these half-built subdivisions. The other thing I can do is I can look around like, okay, I'll see this property here. Oh, interesting. It's a mobile home. What do we have over here? Built 1999. So this is kind of an older, these homes have been around a while. Let's go up here to Mountain Estates. Look at these. These are some nicer homes here that are getting built around this, built in 2006. So it looks like they started building out all these subdivisions here, you know, in 2005, 2006, and a bunch of them started to fail. Is this the other area we're just, yeah, this is the other one we're just looking at. You know, so you can zoom in, check these out, find the other things in the area.
This brings back a lot of memories for me. It's been a while since I've been in here.
You worked Casa Grande before?
No, I mean just in the system here.
Oh yeah. So, you know, look at all these subdivisions that were getting laid out and just didn't get, you know, started getting built out and just didn't. But look, this subdivision right next in a golf course, blocks away, right?
There's a big lake over there to the left. That's crazy.
Yeah, and then you transition to this like two blocks away, and you know, the assessed values on these things are, you know, $1,100. They bought it for 12 grand in 2005.
Sorry, if you can hold on to that screen. If we're looking at a screen like that, so can you just click that again?
Yeah.
From here, we're able to see that they have phones. They've got a social profile there as well. And if you want to find out more about that property, we would just hit the little, okay, there you go.
Click in,
Oh,
and
there
now
it is. Yeah.
here you get all of the data that you'd expect, you know, from a property profile. Now, of course, with land, you know, structure type isn't going to be there.
Sure.
We're actually not supposed to show these things when we don't have data, but, you know, you still get comparables. So this is kind of interesting, right? Like, so lots in this area, well, it's a little bit of a wide area to get results, but, you know, 5,000 to, well, here's a piece of land that sold for 450. We need to, somebody else should be asking us to put lot square footage into comparables. We are going to make some updates here, and that is one thing that's on our list too, because this lot square footage would be really useful here for land comparables.
Yep.
You obviously still pulls it, and you know, we'll show whatever history here. Not a lot of history on this one, but a lot of times there's more. Not only the current owner, but if you scroll down, you'll get all the past history. If the property had been in foreclosure ever, you'd see a list here of foreclosures. Contact information, and as you'll see, there's their phone numbers.
Wow.
74 years old, male.
Mm-hmm.
Phone number's right there. Yeah. And then information about the area, right? Like what's the population and density, male, female, right? Married, single, median household incomes, housing risks, and other stuff. And then here's the neighbors, right? Just the properties in immediate vicinity of this one. And speaking of that, you mentioned the neighboring properties before, right? So if I'm in here, I can come in and say, I've got a lot of criteria here, but I might come in now and say, you know what? I'm actually not interested in all that criteria, but I am interested in this whole neighborhood right here.
Yep.
Now, it's only going to give me those 3 properties at first because I have these other criteria in here. So now I might get rid of some of these other criteria. I still only want the land, but I'm going to get rid of purchase date. I'm going to get rid of owner phone. I'm going to get rid of owner age. And now I'm getting almost all of these, right? So some of these look like these bigger ones, maybe having a higher assessed value. So I'm going to get rid of that. Still didn't add those. So they've been classified as a different type of land. Let's see, manufactured home on that one. Residential acreage. I thought we had we did have, didn't we have residential acreage?
Lot size, probably.
Oh, maybe it's lot size.
I think those are bigger lots.
Lot size. Boom. Here's our other ones.
Awesome.
Now I've got this whole subdivision. I come back, and with all of these, I can just turn these into lists, right? So I can right away, I can export, I can send it off to Zapier and pull it into Pebble right away, right?
Awesome.
If I have that link set up, I can create reports, I can print mailing labels, do a mailing merge. So there's some of that built in, but not like a CRM. And then I can also export, but if you make a list of these, and we'll just call this Casa Grande.
And sorry, guys, I know there's questions here, and I'll fire them off to Sean here in a second.
And then after I make that list, oops, did I goof there? Casa Grande. Oh, good, I got it. I'm on our demo, I'm on our development server, so, and don't pay attention to some of this because some of this is works in progress, but here's Casa Grande.
Right.
And I can then come back to that list and look at it. But I can also turn on development server, monitoring insights automations, and it'll tell me, give me insights on, here's just an example of what insights looks like. It'll tell me about my list, like who are these people? How old are they? What's their marital status, income? So that when I'm working on my marketing, I know who I'm talking to. And then same thing about the properties. This was obviously a different, this is my development test account, but in this case, it was all single family homes, and there's 600, this is cool too for like realtors, like how many transactions were there in the last year? What was the total dollar volume? So you can start figuring out, can I make commissions? But it tells you a little bit about the properties and who it is you're trying to target. And then you can also go in and create automations and say, hey, tell me when something new matches my list, or tell me when something changes on my list, like somebody gets a loan or sells or whatever. And this is where you can set up those integrations off to Zapier.
Awesome.
Sean, thanks for bringing us in here. I think there's a lot that somebody can sort of explore inside of here. Now, a couple quick questions from our group here. Are there any laws about targeting older people? I don't believe so.
No, age is not a protected status. So that's why you can have retirement homes and retirement communities.
Right.
Now, there are laws, there are some tricky things in just sending out blasts of, say, text messages or phone calls that you do have, have to worry about.
And state laws may vary, so I was talking more to national level.
Yeah, right. But
generally, age is not protected. Yeah.
Joanne asked, does it show contour lines on that satellite map, and can we look up a property by the APN?
Yes, so we were kind of walking through this feature Discover, and Discover has this feature. It also has these heat maps. So like where you can come in and look by property type. And this is cool because you can see very large areas. And give this just a second to draw in. We'll probably have faster, but like you can see all of Phoenix by property type. You see it's a lot of single family. And then as you get to more the city core, you see more commercial, right? You can also do the same thing for estimated value. So I didn't mention that, but this is pretty helpful. Oops, zoomed out too far. When you're trying to get an understanding of an area and like what the expensive areas and inexpensive areas are and that kind of thing. So there's more to this, and this works also, like you can see how much more expensive it is here, right? This also works at the street level, and you can do things like clicking too fast, estimated equity. So you can be driving down the street and see, who's got equity, who owns the house free and clear, who's underwater, et cetera.
I don't know if I missed it, but contour lines as in, I want to mute somebody here. Contour lines as in elevation, you have that as well?
Elevation only for the area. So no, not right now. It is on our list.
Okay.
Lookup, we have lookup by property or by person. So like when I was looking at land earlier, I found Mulholland Services. And these folks are clearly flipping properties. Oh, I found more than that earlier. I must be misspelling it. But anyways.
And you can look up by APN as well, correct?
And so you can look up by owner name, by phone number, by email, and then property by site address, by APN, and by our radar IDs.
Cool.
Samuel asked here, how do you filter out government properties?
Yeah, so back here under search, this is going to vary a lot by county, so it's going to depend on your county. But under property type, we have a whole category for government properties.
Right.
And so you would just not select any of these.
Okay. And Sam, I think perhaps it's exactly what Sean just mentioned. Perhaps it depends on the county, because he does use the exclude corporate owned and the government owned still shows up. So I'm assuming depending on the county too.
Yeah. So then what you do is you're going to go pick a property, right? Here's the town of Paradise Valley. So here the town owns it and it's categorized as religious.
Ah, gotcha.
Right. Like, so there's not like some of that just happens. Let's see if this is another town facility. Yeah. No. So one of the things that I really recommend with public records, if you're having trouble finding criteria that matches what you want, go find 5 properties, right? By driving around, by, Google searches, whatever, that match what it is you're looking for. I had a guy that was looking for drive-in restaurants, right? And in one county, we've got a criteria for drive-in restaurants and it works perfect. In the next county, it doesn't work at all. But he was able to he went and found 5 Taco Bells and looked at those, found their property type, and found out what else they had in common, and then used those things as his criteria, and he found all the rest.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah.
So sometimes, because every county is a little different, sometimes you have to reverse engineer it. And that works really well. Just go look up those individual properties, make a note of, whatever it is they have in common. So this town of Paradise Valley, we can click in and start looking for maybe what else makes it clear that it's a government property. Like, so one thing, we're going to go look at property taxes. This is a really good one, right? Like, well, they've gotten an assessed value, right? And they've got a taxpayer. But if we go look at sorry, I did a weird scroll thing again. if we go look at another property here, I think we may have just figured it out. So, and I'm going to come down to property taxes. And here we have annual taxes. Did you notice on the government property there was no annual taxes?
They're exempt,
Right?
yeah.
So now I come back and I can come into my criteria, value and equity, property tax. I'm going to go to my annual taxes. I'm going to have a max of 0.
Gotcha. Makes sense. So a bit of reverse engineering.
Yeah, or I could put in annual taxes greater than 100, right? And since the government doesn't pay property taxes, now I'm going to exclude all my government properties.
Right.
So
Awesome.
yeah, it is that's a great example of the reverse engineering strategy that you use with public records.
Sean, if somebody wanted to get started with PropertyRadar, what's the best way?
Yeah, just come to our website, PropertyRadar.com, and their pricing information's there, and you can just sign up and log in and start playing.
Pricing information, you mentioned $99. What does that include?
Yeah, so
or on a very just rough.
Yeah, so 10,000 exports a month, 10,000 properties where you have automations. So lists with automations, 10,000 records, and then 8 cents for email or phone append. You can view phones though for free in the app with that. And that's 79 billed annually, billed monthly, it's 99.
Gotcha.
And then we do have this essential package. So if you don't care about phones and you're only doing small marketing lists, this can work, right? It's 1,000 properties and 1,000 exports. But you know, if you're going to be doing mailing labels or exports to just a few hundred folks, and you're going to do direct mail, you know, this might work for you. If you want the phones and all the features, a lot more data sets in this. But if you work in land, you may not care about foreclosures and some of the other data sets. There's more information down here about what's included. So this might work for some folks in the land space, not making calls.
Awesome.
More
Sean,
users, more properties, whatever, you know, there's some additional things.
Awesome. And I know you also have a 3-day trial too. So if you guys wanted to get in there, see what it's like, do take advantage of that.
We had hundreds and hundreds of customers do a deal during their free trial.
Awesome.
And send me that. If you do that, please send me that, because nothing makes me happier than to hear that.
That is awesome. Sean, thanks very much for taking the time out of your day to answer our question and show us around inside of PropertyRadar. If you guys have any other questions, please make sure to reach out. PropertyRadar is also on our tools page if you wanted to check that out. Yeah, thanks again very much for your time.
I should also mention too that we will have PropertyRadar as one of our data import shortcuts. So when you pull a list from PropertyRadar, bring it into Pebble, it's just a 1 click to match up all the columns, and you won't have to do any of that stuff by hand.
And Kevin, we're now let people export with lots of different field sets. So we'd be happy to put in a standardized field set for you guys in our next release, so that people can just have a Pebble field set that perfectly matches up. Easy.
That's awesome.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll do that.
We'll make it custom.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks very much for your time, Sean. If you wanted to hang around, feel free. If you got to run, we're going to actually dive into a little bit of Pebble right now. Kevin, do you want to go ahead and share the screen? Thanks very much, Sean.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thanks, Sean. Yes, let me pull up this and share my screen. Okay.
There we go. Sweet. So last week during the update roundup, we didn't get a chance to really demo this. And there have been a lot of changes inside of the editor, the template editor, and that is actually going to get pushed out shortly here.
for those of you who are regular Pebble users, you'll see a little bit of change in how documents are generated. And that all starts with the template editor. Some of these changes have been sort of shipping over the past few weeks, but this is sort of the latest and greatest version, which will go out, I think, tonight or maybe tomorrow. So, so when you go into edit a template, a few things have changed. Basically, there used to be a notion of this template type. So we had like an offer letter template type and a contract template type, and it was confusing because the placeholders that were available in those templates differed depending on what type of template you were using, whether it was an offer letter or a contract or a deed. And we've basically gotten rid of the notion of template types. So everything is now all the same. So you can use the same placeholders in all your different templates. And this is the sort of unified list of placeholders that we have available now. So all the ones you're used to with county information, property information, owner information. And then we also have new placeholders around buyers and sellers specifically. And then we've added some additional dates. This has been a huge request for us, getting different dates. Some people want to have a contract default to say 40 days or 90 days or whatever. So we've added a bunch of new dates in there to try to help you out with that. And then also your custom fields here are now at the bottom, and those are all sorted by the section that those custom fields are in. So that should clear up some of the placeholders, and now everything's sort of in one place. And then a few other things that we have. I guess the main one is you can now generate documents from either your buyers or sellers. And this is really helpful if you're in a situation, and I know this is a very common situation, happens to me all the time, where you send a letter to somebody and then they call you and they're like, hey, I want to sell my property to you, but I also own these 6 other properties. Do you want to buy those too? And suddenly you have to start typing in random appends to generate a contract for single properties in that case. So what we have now is you can do that all from your seller's screens. So you get your seller lead here. You can add the additional properties they have just by clicking this add new button, or select properties if you already have them in your system. And then now you can generate a document very quickly. So I can just go here to actions and add document. And then let's say I want to do a purchase contract. So I'm purchasing a property or purchasing multiple properties from the seller. I can just select sale and purchase contract. And this will pull up the document generator. And this is my template that is populated with all the information from all these properties. So you see that I've got both the appends in there, and those are populated in here. I've got the 2 legal descriptions, and then it's defaulted to the sale price of what I've offered, but I can go in here and change this and just type in, I don't know, $10,000. And then as soon as I change this, it's going to update it in my contract here and replace that placeholder with $10,000. And all of these are live editable. So I can go in here and change who the seller is, who the buyer, or who the what their address is. I can make additions, like if this is actually owned by this person and their wife, I can go do that and just say, you know, Susie McTester, and boom, I've got the that'll now update that right in your template. So it's very quick to sort of adjust these things on the fly. It'll do a live preview, which we didn't have before. We had the ability to preview documents, but you had to fill out the form and then click preview. That would download a PDF where you could look at it. Now it's sort of live editable right there. So I can just go in here, make sure my contract looks good, and then if everything looks good, I just click save document. This will now generate our PDF. my internet's a little bit slow here, so this might take a few seconds.
And this is also if you had more than two or you can have 3 properties, 4 properties, you can have multiple properties on this, correct?
Yep, you can have as many as you like. So now I've got my new my document here. This is now generated, so I can download it. I can also send that as a mailing. This is super helpful if you've got neighbor letters and you just want to blast 100 people for a neighbor letter. You can just do that very quickly. So we think that this is going to streamline the generation of documents. I know that that's a big thing that people do inside of Pebble. This should alleviate some of the kind of slowness there and make things really, really streamlined. So.
Yep. Awesome. Anybody with any questions or anything regarding Pebble, feel free to unmute yourself if you want to. We've got a couple minutes here left. And Kevin, is there anything else that we need to show? I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. There's a few tweaks around documents and templates, but that's sort of the main
Yep.
things there. So.
And I know that some of you guys were trying to preview the postcards. I know a lot of you guys are trying to get postcards out. We now make it you're able to properly preview both sides of the postcards. That is going to be pushed out either late today or tomorrow, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And it's great, by the way. If you guys are interested in the postcards, we're seeing some pretty cool results with response rates on postcards. So pretty exciting stuff, actually.
Yeah, check out that map where you can put the map of the image. You basically put a satellite photo of the person's property and say, hey, is this your property? That we don't have full data yet, but the people who have tested that out are seeing a significant bump in their response rates. So do check that out.
Yeah, and I'm going to put it out there again. If you guys want a design done, let me know. I'm happy to, because I want to continue to add designs into our template library. And if you wanted some graphic stuff, I'm a designer by trade here, so that's what I do. So if you want something done, I'm more than happy to work with you. Paul Brewer got me to put together a congratulations card. That's going to be pushed out onto our template soon here as well. So if you want to say thank you to somebody who purchased a piece of property, he asked me and I put it together. So if you guys are eager to say, maybe you don't want to use our current map where it has an arrow that says, is this your property? Maybe you want it to look a little bit different, put together a chicken scratch. I'll design something for you. All right. Well, if it's going to be quiet here, we don't have any questions. It's great to see all of you guys joining us. And thank you for all of you guys who stuck around and are going to watch this a little bit later. This will also be uploaded onto YouTube. If you ever wanted to stay posted on what's happening, we've also got an upcoming events calendar thing that you can follow and add to your calendar. If you just go to reiconversion.com, go to the top where it says tools, and resources, and then upcoming events. So that is always for you guys if you want to see what's coming up ahead. We do sort of 2 live streams a month and a bunch of sessions on Fridays as well. So yeah, great. It was great seeing all of you guys today. Thank you very much for your time. You know where we're at. Hopefully you'll see the update get pushed tomorrow. If you have any other questions, you know where we're at. And have a wonderful night, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.